just ended. It was Quinton de Kock who was the representative of the South African team, and I'm here to share updates with you with regards to what exactly is it that's happening in the South African camp, or how is it that they're looking at this India-South Africa encounter. And of course, there was the mention of the final as well between the two sides, which had taken place in Barbados. Quinton de Kock did have a thing or two to say about that particular match. And then, yes, of course, there were questions asked to Quinton de Kock on not just what the commentary on the Indian team and the South African team in terms of favourites has been like coming into this particular match and into the tournament, but also the fact that the Indian side has a lot of left-handers. The loss of Abhishek's form as well is something that was spoken about in this press conference. I must say, this was the third press conference I attended in the little over a day that I spent over here. It was Mokel, then it was Suryakumar Yadav who had come for the press conference. This one was the third press conference I attended, and this was the shortest of the lot. I saw the Mone Mokel press conference go on for a long time. Then the press conference that was held today, earlier in the day by Suryakumar Yadav, was also like a good 20-25 minute press conference. But this one though, Quinton de Kock seemed like he wanted to get inside and start to practice, because there wasn't much that Quinton de Kock said. Having said that, a couple of things do stand out from that press conference, and I'm going to be telling you about about those takeaways in this very stream. Let's in fact begin, because shortly from now we're going to be starting with the dugout as well, where we'll talk more about this particular encounter that's looking extremely spicy. Things are looking very, very good. So number one, what exactly is it that the mood is like in the South African camp? Very, very positive is what he says. He says in fact that there is no headache that this team has till now, and that's obviously a good bonus for the South African side. He's not really looking at I'm sorry about that. There's just a couple of notifications that popped up. So he also says that at the moment there isn't any press conference. Just got to gather my thoughts again. The phone's also buzzing. But yeah, let me just get my attention straight now. So he says that nothing really that the South African team has had to worry about. No good. It's good that there aren't any headaches, and that's always a good thing, is what Quinton de Kock said. On the pitch though, there were a few questions that were asked about the pitch, and he says very, very clearly that Ahmedabad has no turn to offer. How is it that the South African team then sort of prepares under lights is something I'm going to be very, very keenly looking at. But as far as the Indian team is concerned, I'm just trying to add 2+2 over here. The fact that Kuldeep Yadav did bowl today, but bowled absolutely zilch yesterday when the whole team was there. Today was an optional training session, but on a day where not a lot of Indian players turned up, that bowling, to my understanding of the game, doesn't count for a lot. And if QDK is saying that this pitch has had no turn, Suryakumar Yadav says there is very little dew over here. In fact, next to negligible dew is what I saw yesterday. Then that tells me you're not looking at spinners perhaps playing a big part. Seamers could really have a bigger say, is what Quinton de Kock feels. And from an Indian standpoint, maybe then there's going to be no Kuldeep Yadav. That's just the cricketing logic that I can apply at the moment. Besides that, he talked about Aiden Markram and the fact that he's going very good at the top. We saw him score very good runs in the build-up to this particular fixture as well. And he feels that perhaps clarity has helped Aiden Markram get the best out of him as a batter. Not much as far as leadership is concerned has changed in Aiden Markram from 2024, but otherwise it's a happy lot at the moment. The South African camp, they've got nothing to worry about. There was a very interesting question asked about Varun Chakravarti, since QDK has known him from close quarters, going back to their KKR days, and he feels that he's the number one bowler for a reason, and he just hopes that the South African batters who've been having a chat or two about how is it that they can counter the number one bowler in T20 cricket, those plans do fructify tomorrow, and they're able to negotiate with the Indian spinner. Speaking of world number one batters and bowlers, I must also point out that QDK was asked about how the South African team looks at the loss of form of Abhishek. He says that he doesn't know much about what Abhishek's been going through. Surely he does. He was just, I think, playing mind games over there. But he also says that if he's also the number one batter in the world, then sure enough, he is right up there in the rankings for a reason, and he should be coming good at some point. Who knows if it's going to be the South African match, is what he said. And lastly, before I go, must also say, as I said at the start as well, must also tell you what is it that that Quinton de Kock said, and this perhaps was the only time there were a few laughs in the press conference room, because there came a mention about the 2024 final, and what is it that South Africa are now looking at to ensure that they don't slip up the way that they did in Barbados. He says that, it's a day that none of us have really talked about. There's been no conversation. People just went back home. They also obviously knew that the match was well within their grasp, but they let that slip away. But QDK says that we've not really liked talking about that particular match. At least he says since the time he's rejoined this Indian team, he's not seen anyone or heard anyone have a chat about that particular match. I don't blame them for the simple reason. Again, it's going to be very, very hard. It's like, you're asking an Indian player that what was the conversation after the loss of the 2023 World Cup final, and sure enough, that's something that the Indian team would not have wanted to talk about as well. I'm going to end this stream right here, but joining you in just a couple of minutes on the Sports Today Dugout, where Nikhil will be there, Siddharth Vishwanathan will be there as well, Shane could also be there, and yeah, I look forward to taking the chat forward over there with you guys. Thank you so much for your company, and see you on the dugout.